with that, we will begin by getting your reactions, Coach, about the news that just hit our mailbox with us playing FC Cincinnati for the very first time in Major League Soccer.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's nice to get that first fixture out there. Both teams, I'm sure, with that in mind, have something to work for now in pre-season. They know where they're going. They know what their first challenge will be. So, that's great for us as coaches and, of course, the group. I mean, you look at the work that they've done in the off-season. They've been very busy. The changes that have occurred there under Jaap Stam are there for all to see. And, with it being such a local derby as such, and the rivalry that we bring with us from USL, which is, of course, where we had some pretty tough battles with Cincinnati. My expectation is it'll be a very, very tough game as an opener. I don't think either team will want to get off on the wrong footing. There's plenty to prove for both. Local derbies are always a difficult game, come what may, and to have it as the opening fixture will add a little bit of spice to it. So, we'll make sure that our preparations are as thorough as they can be, and of course we'll look forward to it when it comes round.
Thank you, Coach. Eric, you have some experience against FC Cincinnati in Major League Soccer. What does this mean for the club, having already seen a little bit of rivalry when we opened the season last year against Atlanta? And what does it mean now to play Cincinnati in this new season?
Yeah, I think anytime you have clubs that have played in USL against each other, we have some guys around still from our USL days that played against Cincy then. Now to carry that over into MLS, I think is special. I think, like Gary was saying, they have spent some decent money this offseason to bring some players in. I think they're going to be a little bit different group than has been around the last year. So I think it's going to be a big challenge for us from day one. And I think for our group of players to kind of have that first opponent set and to kind of have a goal in mind to look forward to, I think helps a lot mentally to kind of get through preseason. It helps our players and our staff to prepare better and to kind of have a better understanding of what's coming in that first game.
We will remain with you, Eric, actually, to get your reactions about staying with the club for a few more years, hopefully. How did those news came to be, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm very excited. We have a very good group of guys here, a good staff, a lot of good people in the front office. So I think for me, it was a pretty easy decision to come back here. I think it's very cool to be part of building something, and I think we have a really cool opportunity here to build on what we did last year and to continue going forward. I think to be successful 1 year is okay, but I think the goal here is to be successful year in and year out and to constantly be competitive for trophies over a long period of time. And I think to be able to be part of building something that hopefully goes towards that is a really cool opportunity. And I think also a very rare one in MLS. So it was a pretty easy decision for me to come back here. And I'm really looking forward to another year with the club.
Wonderful. Thank you for your thoughts. We will continue by opening the floor for questions. We will begin with one from Tim Sullivan from For Club and Country for you, Coach.
Yeah, Gary, seeing today that Randall is headed to Guadalajara for the U23 CONCACAF qualifying tournament. How excited are you for him? And then how does that kind of affect your preparations for the next couple of weeks of preseason here?
Well, it's an incredible opportunity for Randall. He's been an ever-present almost in that Costa Rican group. Delighted for him that he's got such a standing in the international arena. As far as pre-season goes, Randall's going to be gone, I believe, from next week, or in fact, I think he goes this weekend, looking at my calendar behind me. I think he goes on Saturday, the 13th. And we'll miss him then, I believe, for pretty much all of our Florida trip and the friendlies down in Florida. And we should see him again in that build up 2 weeks towards that opening game against Cincinnati. it's disappointing whenever you lose anyone to to any other competitive tournaments. But I think we all look at it in a very positive manner here. The guys that are going away, and there'll be others that are representing their country. It's a great accolade, of course, and we're delighted to have such caliber individuals in the group. So it's part and parcel of having those players, and we'll adapt, and there'll be individuals that are given an opportunity to step into that void and show what they're about. And we have plenty of those that want mine with one or two other absentees.
From the meantime, as we reconnect with Eric, with a question for you, Coach.
Hey, Gary, Ben Dudley, MLS Now podcast. With all the extra signings that we've had, both in the attack and in the defense, especially, you look at Hines and Castellanos as sitter back and attacking outside back. Is there any maybe opportunity for maybe a 5-3-2, 3-5-2 that we use in USL, or possibly even a 4-3-3?
I think all of those possibilities are out there, Ben. You saw last year that on a couple of occasions we shifted gears a little bit and went with a back three. I mean, I always like to have a plan B, as a lot of teams do. And, given the qualities and abilities of some of our players, playing with wing backs, is really something that we can dig into a little bit more this year. There was an awful lot of work that went into getting the team ready for last year, and having more focus, or putting more focus into what would be an alternative system. Just didn't happen too much in those early weeks and months. But as the season wore on, I think you saw the ability of the players to adapt. There was numerous opportunities for guys to prove what they were about, and I think the epitome of that was in Houston when we went to that back three shape, and I thought the guys did a wonderful job, and I know we've touched on that numerous times. So yes, there is. I do think it really does depend on the opponent and the situation, but of course, injuries and suspensions can have an effect on that as well.
Thank you.
We'll continue with a question from Ben Wright from Speedways. From Broadway Sports for you, Coach.
Yeah, Gary, you touched on this a little bit earlier, but what have you seen from Cincinnati in the past, their past couple seasons in MLS? What do you remember playing against them at the USL level, and what are you expecting in your opener?
Well, I think first and foremost, whether results have gone the right way for a team or not, that's all part of their journey, not ours. But what you have seen is a turnaround of head coach. Jaap Stam is an incredibly experienced, and was, in my eyes, one of the best defenders to have walked this planet since I've been here. So I'm sure, his experiences at some very, very big clubs, he'll be trying to impart with some of those players. And it takes a little bit of time to sometimes get your message across and see, some of those changes come to fruition. What he will have been, I'm sure, encouraged by is the amount of work they can or have done in the off season, not just through trades, but I think the forward Harris that they signed through the college draft was an excellent pickup and has tremendous potential. So, I'm sure in this pre-season he'll be looking to reinforce some of those messages and really get the guys off on a good footing. And it won't be any different to us or any other team. We all want to get our best foot forward, add points to the board quickly, and really start to see some confidence and momentum in the group. So, you know, last year will be put behind them. Whatever the first year was about will be put behind them, and they'll see this as a really good opportunity to make a bit of a fresh start with some new faces, and get off in a bright and purposeful fashion, I'm sure.
Well, I'm delighted to share that we have Eric Miller back on the call. So we'll take it back to Drake Hills, who was in the process of sharing a question with you, Eric.
Yeah, I hope everything is all right on your end, Eric. I'm glad that you're back, though. I wanted to ask you a little bit about just for context sake. I mean, obviously, you had a pretty strong start. You started the first 2 matches in 2020 with this team, and after everything that happened on and off the field for Nashville SC in 2020, for you personally, what is your objectives, and how has 2020 affected what you want to get done in 2021?
Yeah, sorry, I lost connection there, but I'm all good. So yeah, I think 2020 was hopefully, and I think will be the strangest year that I ever play as a professional. I think going from playing 2 games with fans to taking a 3-month break to doing a tournament in Orlando to doing the most congested schedule we'll ever see and going that late into the year, I think is a really weird experience for all of us. I think it showed a lot about our group that we were able to withstand that many challenges, and that we were able to kind of pride the different events throughout the year and still come out in a really good place. For me personally, obviously, I would have liked to have played more, but I'm very happy with how well the team did, and I'm hopeful that I can continue to have that our team can continue to have success, and that hopefully I can be a bigger part of it on the field this year. I think having competition within the team is hugely important. I think Gary can attest to this, that when he has more than one guy in positions that he can trust and that he can rely on, I think that's really when you start to have good teams. And I think our roster is starting to be built out in a way that there are more than one reliable guy in a bunch of different spots. And I think at that point, training starts to really matter. Performance in games starts to really matter. And I think that kind of just causes us all to lift our level a little bit. And I think that's, as a player, that's what you want. You want to have to train hard every day. You want to have to perform in games. And I think for our group to grow from where we're at in year 1 to grow even more in year 2, I think that's going to be very important.
We will continue with a question from Tim Sullivan, again for you, Eric.
Hey, Eric, hope you're driving safely there, man. You've had experience with a young franchise before, obviously with Minnesota United. How important is it for you going into the second year with Nashville SC to kind of see some of the cohesion get built in ways that maybe you've seen happen with the club before, as Minnesota United? I believe it was in their second year when you joined that franchise.
Yeah, I think here we're in an interesting spot because we're a club that is probably more similar to the Minnesotas and the Cincinnatis in terms of how we financially approached being an expansion team. We didn't spend what LAFC's or what Atlanta spent on their first couple of years, but I think we performed at a much higher level than those other teams did in their first couple of years. So I think for us, we've kind of set a standard for ourselves, and we have to continue to grow, and we have to continue to show that not only was last year a fluke, but that we are a really good team and a really good club that is going to be successful year in and year out. I think we are very lucky that we have a lot of guys who are coming back. We can continue to build cohesion with our group, with our players, with our different relationships all over the field. And I think for us, it's just about growing and showing that we belong. And I think it's easy to make the playoffs once. It's easy to make a long run once, but to prove year in and year out that you can do it is the really hard part. And that's where we just have to continue to grind and continue to improve every year. And I think we have a bunch of guys here that are willing to put in the work and are willing to do what's necessary to do that.
We will return to Drake Hills with a question for you, Coach.
Yeah, Gary, I mean, I'll use Eric as an example here since he's on the call, but we always talk about, obviously, the relationships between players as they're building that cohesion and building some chemistry on the field, especially in a new team. But from your perspective as the manager, as the coach, I mean, building those relationships in year 1, now we're in year 2 where that isn't necessarily on the plate per se, as far as things to do. what type of a burden, what not necessarily a burden, but in this year, do you feel a little bit more of an advancement that you can really focus on what they're capable of and what they're really good at, as opposed to having to spend a little more time on trying to learn who they are first before you can advance a little bit?
Well, I think first of all, Jake, make no mistake, and Eric's touched on this a little bit. There are some huge challenges in that first year that this group, in any normal world, would have had to have overcome. But given the year we had, was even tougher. But if anyone thinks that this year is going to be any easier, then they're greatly mistaken, because when you have achieved something, when you have set a standard, then you're putting yourself in a position where not only are teams more focused and ready for the type of challenge that they have in front of them, but I think the atmosphere that you've created around the group and the excitement for our fans and for the city has got to be reinforced. And suddenly we have a fair distance to fall if it doesn't go well. So the players understand that. I think their mentality in this early stage of pre-season has been fantastic. Nothing short of what I expected. We have all the ingredients in our group to improve in many different areas. I think we've made some nice additions. We have good competition in a lot of areas. We have a very strong and solid foundation to our culture and our identity as a group. And we're fully aware of one or two of the things that we need to continually work at. I think we showed a much brighter and more purposeful edge to our play in the closing stages of the season. Creation and goals scored looked an awful lot better. We can say that was down to having certain individuals on the field playing together, but I think that was part of it. I think there was a confidence and a belief in our game as well, and that took us into that momentum took us into the off season or into the post season. And if you look at what needs to be achieved in this pre-season now, it's reinforcement of some of those qualities, of some of that build out, creation. And of course, the pre-season games, I hope, gives us a bit of a taster again of what we're capable of.
We will continue with a question for you, Eric, from Ben Dudley.
Yeah, Eric. So this is a fairly young team. We have like 14 guys on the team under 25. You're not much out of that bracket, but you are a veteran in this league. What are some of the things that you're saying to these younger guys? Alistair Johnson, a rookie. You've got Tom Judge, who got drafted, will hopefully be in soon. Nick Hines, another young guy. What are you saying, working with them in practice, showing that veteran leadership?
Yeah, these guys make me feel old sometimes, which is tough because I'm only 28 now. But I think for the most part, the way our group is I think a lot of it is just hopefully that they're seeing the way that Dax or Walker or Lovitz or Joe Willis or Jaleel is working, or what they're doing, and then hopefully they're just kind of picking up and following it. Me personally, I got drafted to Montreal, which seems like forever ago, and there wasn't really a strong group of older guys there to kind of show the ropes to the younger guys. And I think for our young guys here, they have a very, very fortunate situation where we have a lot of guys who have been around MLS, who have succeeded in MLS in a lot of different places, and they have a lot of opportunities to learn from different guys. And I think they've been great in terms of trying to absorb as much information as they can and to try to pick up whatever the older guys are doing. I mean, there's not a lot of better examples of how to go about your business than Dax McCarty. I mean, this guy's been around for a really long time, played for a lot of very, very good teams. And I think for these guys to just have the opportunity to work around him, to see what he's like, to see what he does before training, to get his body ready, to see how he prepares for games. I think stuff like that is really, really invaluable. And I think it's stuff that maybe they don't realize now, but maybe in 3 or 4 years when they're a little bit older, they'll understand why he was doing certain things. And I think those guys are very fortunate, and I think they're a very, very good group of guys who are taking stuff on really well. And I think it's a very important thing for our club to continue to have young guys and old guys and a nice mix of guys. Those guys give us energy, and hopefully we can give them a little bit of wisdom.
And we have a final question for you, Coach, this time from Tim Sullivan.
Gary, through now a week of training, how is the guys' health holding up? Are you guys remaining pretty healthy? And then I guess specifically a guy that we didn't see at the end of last year because he did get hurt late in the year, Jack Mayer, is he fully in training with you guys?
Yeah, listen, the guys are in great shape. Attitude's been wonderful. The preparations for the vast majority of the group coming into what was a delayed pre-season, of course, has been terrific. You know, the vast majority of these lads have kept themselves and got themselves into a good physical order, which makes pre-season so much easier. You know, for me and the other coaches, it allows us to move into, you know, more advanced areas of our preparation without having to go through an awful lot of the, you know, the volume and spade work of just getting people fit. So, you know, I'm delighted about that. There's been a lot of good work already. You know, just 1 week in, I'm very, very pleased at where the guys' mentality and technical ability is actually at. As far as Jack, he's from day one been involved. He had a good off season, looked after himself, got himself healthy, then got himself fit, and he looks in good shape. So, you know, we're in a good place all round. 1 or 2 little niggles, but nothing outrageous at all. You know, the expected blisters and soreness that pre-season brings. But as Eric's alluded to on more than one occasion there, I think you've got a very unique group of individuals that have got a very strong will and a good culture, and we're in a decent place.